Abby, thank you so much for coming in.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
Excited to be here.
This is our second podcast we've done in our studio here, so I much prefer when we can do it in person like this. So,
Yeah, absolutely.
Lucky today wasn't too cold, so thank you.
I'm from Wisconsin, so this cold never really doesn't bother me.
Oh, really? Good.
Yeah.
Perfect. Abby has overseen some incredible projects, immersive brand campaigns in the last 10 years, decade-long career so far.
Yeah, it's hard to believe that it's been a decade, but it has been a decade.
That's
that
awesome.
I've been working my way through the career path, if you will.
Yep. And so you've handled both in a corporate structure in agencies and freelance as a freelancer as well.
Yeah, I've been agency side, I've been consultant, and I've also been vendor side as well.
Got you. I spent the first half of my life going to so many events and festivals and things where there's endless amounts of activations and immersive experiences going on, but I don't know the first thing about them at all. So I'm guessing this next hour is going to be a good learning for me all the way around. So thank you again for coming in. And do you want to give us a bit of your background? And
Sure. I can kind of tell you how we ended up here at this table. That I'm originally from the Midwest. I went to college in Missouri, and after I graduated, I moved to LA, and I was there for 5 years. I started out in fashion PR and moved into boutique advertising, where I did everything from pick up lunch for meetings to fly to Miami for a last minute meeting because my boss was sick. So when he hired me as a traffic coordinator, I honestly didn't even know what that meant. It was essentially had to do with media and trafficking media buys and media ads. Working in a boutique was such an amazing way to learn so many things at once. Being very nimble, being able to pivot, and getting able to work with an incredibly talented team at such a young age. I mean, I was managing art directors twice my age as well. So that was an incredible learning experience just to be very hands-on like that. And then when I got recruited into a much larger agency, we're talking going from a 20-person team to a 12,000-person company at an entertainment ad agency in LA, where their bread and butter is making movies, trailers, films, teasers, key art, poster art, you name it in the entertainment world. I spent a good 2 years on the Universal Studios Hollywood team, and then eventually also took over Universal Orlando. There, I reported to a supervisor, and we were a segment of the brand team. So when you think of an agency with 12,000 people, people are like, oh my gosh, how do you ever fit in somewhere like there? And typically with a big agency like that, you're siloed into teams. So, I mean, you have to have several floors. We had an entire building on Hollywood and Highland, right in front of the Chinese theater. So when you look at an agency that size, it was categorized into TV, brand, and theatrical. So the brand team was then also chopped down into two more teams of brand and art to Universal. Universal was its own team because we had so much work. You know, working from photo shoot concepts to actual being the EP on site, executive producer, helping the photo shoot move along, telling talent where they need to go, having been the one that also casted the talent, all of the crazy things that go along with that. And you don't believe the number of shots you get at the end of a photo shoot like that, especially with, probably the biggest campaign I ever worked on was the Wizarding World of Harry Potter and the launch of that park at Universal Studios Hollywood. And so then when we take all of those assets and we break it down and the team retouches them, and then it gets just blown out into a million different assets. Mm-hmm. We're talking print, TV, radio, out of home, you name it.
Yep.
You know,
so were you navigating with just a ton of different pillars of people, like from different companies? And
more cross-functionally, internally. So typically the feedback from any of the IPs would go to the client, and the client would then gather the IP's feedback, their feedback from their creative team, and then deliver it to us. And then it was my job to put together whatever feedback we received, put it in a brief, mark up what I needed to mark up, and then put together a timeline. And then it's my responsibility to hound the creative team and say, this is due in an hour, this is due in a day, this is due in a week, this is due now.
So it's primarily...
Like, go do this now. Like, you're already still sitting here. Go, please, go do it now. Yeah. So that was probably... And you're working across everybody from pre-press, post-production, art, graphic design.
Yeah. So it's essentially your team is the agency, the client being Universal, and then their client is, or do they call the IP owner
No,
the
it's more
client?
like their partner. It's a partnership.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yes.
Got you. Going back to the first agency you were at,
Yeah.
and then moving to that much larger agency, what was some of the biggest contrasts going from one to the next?
The amount of visibility I had, you know what? That was probably the same. It's interesting because I thought it was going to be incredibly different, but since we were such a close-knit small team, I think it actually really benefited me coming from a smaller agency because then I was much more ready to go and could handle a lot of different things. I think the biggest difference for me was focusing so much more on the account management and the client communication and being less all over the place. I really got to focus in and really grow my skills in terms of project management, account management, and then creative services.
Yeah. From there, where did you go from to get to where you are now?
So from there, I pivoted into a more creative production, visual merchandising, and very print-heavy role at a print visual merchandising production house. So I was working with beauty brands to update all of their collateral in stores. So when you walk into a Sephora and you see there's beauty on display, any brand that's in there, there's shelf talkers, there's trapped graphics, there's gondolas, there's fixtures, there's branding everywhere. That branding had to be created, designed, printed, and shipped by somebody, and that somebody was the company that I worked at. So over the last 5-6 years, that's what I have been doing, and it grew from doing just VM and print rollouts and things like that to growing into trade shows, experiential, and more of the higher level brand experience. And that was where I really found my passion in creating brand experiences, whether it is through print, digital, social, an actual event where there's crazy pop-up things going on and there's influencers and there's balloons and flower walls and branded popcorn carts, you name it.
But your passion is still more the immersive side of it rather than like social strategy specifically or online strategy?
I think online and user experience has its whole other set of experiential standards.
It's definitely like a huge mix, isn't it?
It's a huge mix. It's a big marketing mix. And your brand experience has to be able to talk to what your brand is doing at the time as well. It has to match up with everything else. Sometimes people think, oh yeah, we'll just throw an event or we'll host a pop-up. And I'm like, it's not that simple. There's so much logistics and thought and planning that goes into it in order for you to get that ROI. At the end of the day, yes, it's about creating experience, sensory, emotion, feeling, but you're also wanting people to do something. There's a call to action at some point within an experience. Whether you're shop now, follow us, come see us at X store when we open, shop us online, here's a QR code for a discount, share with your friends and family so they can have a discount. There has to be a call to action and something that people take away with them.
And there's so much work that goes into making sure it doesn't fall flat. Like, there can be
physically and literally, yes.
Exactly. Just knowing it's a success and people walking away with the right voice the language and everything, the tone that you wanted them to walk away with, like making sure that happens, that can take years of planning.
Yeah, it can take years of planning, and that's why right now brands are already talking about what they're doing for holiday.
Yeah.
And I'm like, guys, we just celebrated my birthday. I haven't even put away my Christmas tree yet. Can you give me till Feb 1? Give me till Feb 1. And they're like, no, everything's always planned a year in advance. Definitely. It's just crazy.
What do you feel that fulfills you most about the work that you do?
I love watching new brands explode.
Yeah. So not even the projects that you're working on. It's across the board.
It's across the board. Yeah. I mean, there's nothing better than seeing a client happy and successful. Because then that means the work you did was successful. It made sense, and then it's worth all of the time, effort, energy. You can do something halfway, and the client is happy, but maybe it didn't deliver what they were looking for. But I've seen time and time again, whether it's a brand that's fresh off Shark Tank, they're fresh out of getting funding. Maybe they're 5 years in and just didn't hit their mark yet, and then after working with me or with the company that I'm at, their numbers start to go up, they get exposure, then they get organic exposure, and then suddenly, it's like, it's, game over for them, and they're in a hiring frenzy. And I'm like, I want nothing more than my clients to be in a hiring frenzy.
Definitely.
That's my goal for them. Yeah.
That's really cool. What do you think is your favorite part of it? Is it launch day?
It is launch day. Yeah, it's the day before and the day leading up to. I also really love the mock setup day because then that gives me
I
peace
didn't
for
even know
the
there's a
install
mock
day.
setup day.
That's, you hope for it.
Yeah.
It's a blessing if you have the timeline to do that and the resources, but it's essentially where you do a practice setup of whatever it is you're doing to make sure you're not like, oh, well, that's not gonna work like it did in the drawing. And you would much rather find that out a couple days prior and be able to pivot, pinch hit, figure it out before you get on site versus being on site and the client is there and they're like, this is not right. So
I mean, that's why we scale locations for shoots. That's why we do
you
all
have
of that.
to. You
prep
have to.
work.
Otherwise, it turns into the what I thought, what I bought, and what I got. You know, memes
Yes.
where it's absolutely not what you were expecting, and sometimes that can be a good thing. It turned out better than you expected, and sometimes it can be a bad thing. But in the world of brand experience, you don't want to say, yeah, probably.
Yeah.
It should be fine. Anytime somebody says we should be fine,
Yeah.
I say, oh no, you said the word should. That is not 100%. We've got to figure it out.
Yep.
If there's a should in the equation, we've got to nip it.
What's one of the shoulds that fucking blew up? Was terrible.
We should have enough electrical outlets.
We say that all the time.
Everyone's famous last words. We should have enough electrical outlets. We should have enough power. We should have some touch-up paint.
Yep.
It should be fine. No. Go get extra paint, mix extra. It'll be worth it.
Yep.
You know, I don't care if it puts us a little bit over budget. Take it out of the P&L. Like it's we've got to have that on site because you know somebody's gonna nick something, and we have to have it.
Yeah.
So keep should out of the equation.
We mentioned just before we started about how you've been pitching for pretty much your entire life out of college. You've always been pitching to clients. Are there things you take into a discovery call, like when you're first meeting a client, like questions you want to ask them to know that you've got to go and then create a pitch deck for them maybe after that call?
Yeah. So my first question is whatever project they're asking me about, I'm like, I either know it already, but I also like to ask them is, have you ever done anything like this before? If I know that answer, I'll say, I saw you did X, Y, and Z in last year. What were some of your pain points that came from those? What were some things that didn't work out for you or what KPIs didn't you see, didn't you achieve? What was your favorite part? What worked the best for you? I love asking them what their working style is. Do you want my cell phone number? Do you want me to text you, call you, or email you? All three. Do you listen to your voicemail? Do you prefer for me to show up in person? How do you want to date me, essentially?
Yeah.
What kind of relationship do you want? I think once you understand the demand behind a project or a client, it will help you with your pitch.
Definitely.
Because then you can include those things and then they'll see, oh, great, they're going to hold my hand the whole way. Love that.
How do you navigate, like, you know, when you're trying to get a price from them, a budget from them, but they're coming to you asking the price?
I sometimes will show them things I've done in the past and say, this project ranged from X to X. I will never give them the exact amount. It will be, this was anywhere from 100 to 300K. Mm-hmm. Typically what I do then is I go all the way back to the beginning and I say, okay, I understand that, my ballparks are very large, so it's hard for you to understand where this is going to go. Why don't you send me a mood board? We're going to do 3 comps, 3 designs, and then you can pay for the design fee. Mm-hmm. I'll deduct it from your bill later since we're doing this prematurely before you've even had a chance to look at anything. And then that gives them the option of if they hate all of it or they're like, well, this is above what we can do, then they're only paying for design time and not a full project. But then if they decide, okay, well, we like this, what do each one of these cost? And you can do a low, medium, and high. Mm-hmm. So maybe this one's 50, this one's 75, and this one's 150. And then they can go, we really like that 75 one. But for 10K more, we can get that lighting. Yeah. Amazing. Let's combine those 2 things. And
so showing visuals, showing examples.
Visuals are everything. Yeah. Brands don't understand what you mean by most of it. And sometimes it's hard for you to communicate it without a visual. So I think mock-ups are huge. I know that can take resources, and that's time and money, of course. However, that's what brands need to see in order to be able to say, yes, that read my mind. Yeah.
Like how much work is too much when it could just be a simple, no, we've gone in a different direction.
Yeah, I think understanding just the limits that a project may need and not overdoing it. I think sometimes I can get too invested in a pitch and I spend way too much time on a presentation when I get there just to find out like they just want to chit chat, and we go through like 3 slides. I hit the meat and potatoes, and we're done. And then it's like, I just spent a week on that deck, curating the photos, editing it, designing it, and we go through 3 slides, and then it's, my fault for making a 4:00 appointment. Because by 4:30, they were like, all right, show us the meat and potatoes. We want wine. And I'm like,
what does the meat and potatoes look like for you, though?
Meat and potatoes is your why.
Yeah.
Why am I pitching you?
Yeah.
And why should you hire me?
Yeah.
And in any pitch, that's what it should always be. I know sometimes it can get very consuming to look at the aesthetic of everything and how you present yourself, both physically, mentally, emotionally. Are you nervous? Are you dressed well? Are you polished? Where do you, what kind of background do you have? You don't know if they're Googling you before. Yeah. And you can Google them before as well. You also want to know who you're walking into a room with. It's just like any interview process. They're going to ask you questions and probably be tough on you. Be tough on them back. Say, what happened to your last agency? What happened to your last vendor? Who else have you pitched with? Likely they will not tell you, but it can't hurt to ask.
Do you think there's tips like that put you more on the offense in a good way that can help you build some confidence
100%,
as well?
100%. I mean, I get asked by brands and all the time, even when I pitch to agencies, they're like, we should hire you. Why? I have revised that over and over and over again. But at the end of the day, just saying, because I'll get it done isn't great. I'm gonna learn who you are. I'm gonna take the time. I'm gonna curate a relationship with you. I'm gonna become part of you. We're gonna be sticky together. And whatever it is that you're looking to accomplish, there's always going to be a plan. Yeah. There will always be a solution. Having that mindset, I think, versus like, well, of course, I'm here to deliver for you. Yeah. I don't think that that's the answer that people look for, but they're like, how? Yeah. How? And you want to be like, well, let me show you. But sometimes you have to do it just with your presence and with your energy and with your voice and your confidence, and they can feel that. Yeah. They can feel if you're coming from a place of genuine experience and you've been in the trenches. And I think illustrating that is also super helpful.
I know you've got an interest in AI and AI now industry specifically. Yeah. But have you started leveraging AI within concept design?
I actually just got a starter pack from a woman creator, a designer. Her name's Becky, and I follow her on LinkedIn, and she's created a starter pack of like presets, so it kind of can help you get on your feet with it. Because I've watched so many videos, and it's tough, but man, some people who are really good at it, they are really good. And it's, imagine just being able to break that out so quickly, just to give them an idea. AI is not meant to replace design. You cannot build off of that. You still need structural, architectural, engineering drawings for a lot of custom fabrication, like physical in real life things that you're doing, but it can at least provide you a way to pitch in a more visual way than putting together a mood board that maybe doesn't quite translate what you're trying to get at. Yeah. I tried pitching with a mood board once. It wasn't a full-fledged design. I didn't get the job. Yeah. They went with somebody else who gave them a rendering at no charge. Yeah. It's just, it's that, again, back to that high risk, high reward. When you offer up a drawing or an idea or something without having the job in the bag, you do risk them not hiring you and taking your design, your idea elsewhere. It happens. It's part of it. You pick yourself up, dust yourself off, and you move on. Yeah. And you just have to know that that's part of it.
Have you seen AI used really well in our industries so far? Of course,
Absolutely.
There's incredible, like so many of our references lately is like, that's an incredible photo. That's an incredible concept design that's gone into that photo shoot. Yeah. That's literally just a Midjourney.
I think AI is so powerful from a tech and operations standpoint, just in terms of, when you're working in a small and nimble team, being able to delegate some of the more repetitive, mundane tasks to AI, why not? Free up that person's time to learn something else and be more efficient, be more effective, be more useful to their team versus doing things that literally AI could do for you. Yeah. And then when it comes to the brand side, the amount of personalization that can go into it between content, user experience, it's a massive way of really broadening that spectrum. And unfortunately, some of the jobs where it is repetitive, mundane tasks, where it is all data entry, unfortunately, those could slowly become replaced.
Outside of your own work, what activations and immersive campaigns have you been inspired by?
I absolutely loved this Nespresso cafe that popped up. It wasn't in the US, but it was just a very different and fresh approach to their whole branding. And I think it kind of started a whole avalanche from this past year of brands taking over cafes, bodegas, coffee shops, ice cream shops. Rem Beauty took over a famous ice cream shop on Houston over the summer. You know, there was a bodega takeover in Soho for New York Fashion Week, promoting Latina designers and small businesses, which is beautiful. So I loved that. I loved seeing brands take over everyday spaces.
Yeah.
That was probably my favorite that I saw this last year.
Do you think that helps sort of embed them into smaller communities as well?
Absolutely. It just creates it makes the brand much more accessible. I can go to a Fendi branded cafe and get a cute little $8 latte, which is insane, but it's got the little, the Fendi F's in the foam, and I'm in a store and it's super cute, but I don't feel any pressure to buy anything because I'm not in the store. Yeah. I don't feel like I don't belong, and it's something accessible to me, and I still get to experience the brand and have a positive experience with it. It's much less daunting than walking to a Chanel store where there's security guards, and I think it opens up so many doors for everybody to enjoy and experience the brand. Chanel did it this summer in Brooklyn. Prada's done it before in parks and influencer campaigns. So
I forget what brand it was, but Bradley Cooper did something recently in the city. He was helping cook hot dogs out of a truck for some brand, but it was all going to charity. That was the end result. But it was still
true
a brand
Bradley
got
Cooper
associated
fashion
to Bradley Cooper, and then that it all went to charity. So it was
I love that.
You mentioned Barbie's 360 marketing strategy on that call, didn't you?
Yes, I did.
What were you inspired by that as well?
Absolutely. I was actually shocked how long and how far that marketing campaign went. I think just the sheer amount of work they put behind the campaign. I mean, you're talking content. You're talking like the Airbnb house takeover that was all over social media. Even the Malibu Barbie Cafe in Brooklyn alone was booked out pretty much immediately. And I actually just read yesterday that they're coming out with a coffee table book that will have all the outfits from the Barbie movie in it, and it comes out on March 13th this year. So you talk about taking something so incredibly viral and turning it into a tangible product that people then can take home. I mean, you talk about relighting the flame. I think it's brilliant. It's just absolutely brilliant. And, the other thing that I think is kind of like a hidden note and meaning is the iconic imagery they pulled for their advertising. The very arched foot that's going into the shoe, very Cinderella-esque. Every image told a story, and a very important one, around why this message in the movie was so important.
But it was always so vague at the same time.
It was incredibly vague at the same time. I was
much mystery
not on board with this movie at first. I was like, I'm not going. You would not catch me dead. I have no desire. Da 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 da.
I was like, why is Will Ferrell in this? What is he doing in this? And that was pretty much one of my biggest things of why I went in. I absolutely loved it.
I did too. Once I saw it, I was like, okay, I get it now. But like you, when I saw Will Ferrell, I was like, this is just going to be one big comedic
it's a gimmick.
But it turned out to be incredible.
Yeah. Everyone seemed to have their own way that they found out about the movie. Everyone had their own thing they saw on the train, online, and on something. What were your thoughts when it was all going on, as a marketer?
I thought it was interesting how so many brands capitalized on the movie. Right, you walk down Broadway or you walk around Fifth Ave, and suddenly everybody's windows are pink. Some of them for no good reason. I'm like, you don't even have pink in your brand, but
are they handing out IP left, right, center?
Mattel is no wonder. I'm stuttering because I have no idea how they would have moved so quickly. But I mean, I saw Forever 21 had an entire Barbie capsule in their store. They would have to go through IP for that, 100%. And then you're shooting it, you're doing online content for it, you're probably doing an ad or two for it, you're buying media spots for during or after the same commercial as Barbie to show the new collection, right? And it wasn't just Forever 21. That was just the first one that popped into my head. I mean, it was everywhere.
Yeah. Everyone, like when PAX on or someone would have just a Barbie shirt, I was like, damn, like it was nostalgic, but it was current and everyone was talking about it.
Everybody was talking about it.
Like even now we're filming for a soft drink, healthy soft drink that's Barbie branded all over it. So it's a partnership, but again, it's still going.
And that's why I think it's so brilliant when you take something viral and you can make it tangible into a product.
Mm-hmm. Being a freelancer, working at multiple agencies, multiple projects of different sizes across the country. As a woman navigating through all of this over the years, has there been much pushback or?
Yeah, I've worked in a male-dominated industry my entire career. When I was in advertising, it was a little more diverse, but once you go to the vendor side, it's incredibly male-heavy. Yeah. You're working with teams who have been there for years and years and years. The processes in place have been there for years and years and years. And that can be fine. That can work. Being younger at the time, I think I really had to kind of learn my style of being assertive. Mm-hmm. And it's just it's this very tricky, dainty line to walk between being professional and being assertive, being confident and being aggressive, giving feedback and being rude. I think learning to really hold on to that professional assertiveness and ability to be a chameleon is key. And really just keeping your head on straight and remember it's not personal, it's just business. I think that was one of the best pieces of advice anybody ever gave me is even when someone else makes it personal, it's just business for you.
Yeah. And what advice would you give women that are coming up in your field that could be experiencing or, what should they expect?
Don't take it personally.
Yeah.
Stop taking it personally. Just remember it's business and you're there to better yourself and get what you need from the experience and from the job. And don't be afraid to insert yourself places that you may think you don't belong or don't have the credentials to be because you don't get it what you don't ask for. And if you are maybe someone who's more introverted but you really want to be a leader, start inserting yourself into meetings. Raise your hand, ask a question, answer a question, provide one piece of feedback and let that momentum build so that, when you get to a point that you're feeling ready and comfortable to ask for that promotion, whether or not you feel ready for it, just do it. Worst case scenario, they tell you no and you can ask why. And then you can continue to improve.
I think it's a quick way to learn who you're actually working for too, or the team you're working with.
100%. You got to remember nobody's a mind reader. And that kind of goes along with the whole, being a woman in the workplace thing. Is sometimes you just have to tell someone, hey, listen, you get like really aggressive when X, Y, and Z happens. It makes me a little uncomfortable. I don't know if you notice or not, but can I do anything to help you in the next time? And I've had guys go, I am so sorry. I did not even realize it. I'm sorry. I'm like this on Sunday during football. Like it's just my personality. And you have to kind of learn to get to know someone, what their tics, what their triggers are. And it happens with women too. It's not just women to men ratio. There's also, it can get tricky with women as well. You have to learn how each other work and how each other communicate. And if you need to make changes, you can.
Yeah. So I wanted you to end this with a question for the audience.
Okay.
Did you already have something planned?
I do.
You do. Who is it to?
It is to...
Or is it a super wide net?
It's actually not a wide net.
Okay.
Because I'm very curious. Because it's what I'm going through right now. So to anyone who is in their 30 to 40s range, who maybe they studied something in college, dabbled with something in their 20s, and now they're in their 30s and they're realizing they want to do something completely different. What are you doing to get closer to that? Are you taking classes? Are you volunteering? Are you networking? What are you doing to get to that?
What are you doing to get to that?
I went way out of my comfort zone and came on this podcast. So there's one.
That's effort.
First one. And my pivot is being able to do more of the work I want to do with the clients that I want to do it with. That's why I went on with Stephen Gould, was to learn a whole other side of the brand experience business between packaging and product development, while still also working on other creative projects, whether it's in PR, whether it's in advertising. But another big passion of mine is encouraging people. I love being a team leader. I love training junior staff. Nothing makes me happier when I see them take my job. And I'm like, you go. I'm so proud of you, because then that's also a reflection of me and teaches me
And you know
something.
that, yeah.
And it can show me, hey, I had someone who quit and I was like, well, where could I do better? Where did I go wrong with them? For them, not with them, for them. And it teaches you to be a better leader. And that was something that I've learned over the course of for a long time, as I love being a team leader and I love encouraging teams, individuals, obviously women, my age, older, younger, it doesn't matter. Yeah, and I've really put myself out there in the last year and gone to a lot of events and have, forced myself to, it's funny, this girl that I met recently, she's part of a social club that's starting to blossom in the US. She's from the UK. And she always tells people at events, she's like, okay, so there's an hour of cocktailing, if not longer. Your job is to talk to 3 people that you don't know and didn't come with and have never spoken to before and make 1 coffee plan. And then before you know it, you've accidentally had 12 margaritas because you're trying to, work yourself
up the courage to talk to one.
Work up the courage to get there. And now suddenly you shouldn't be talking to anybody. You need to Uber home. I've done it. I've been in both shoes before. I won't lie to you. Yeah, so I think just setting attainable goals for yourself. But my question would be is what are you doing to get there? What attainable goals are you setting to get there?
I love it.
Yeah.
That's the best question. Thank you so much for coming on again.
Thank you for having me. This was a blast.
Hell yeah. This was such a good hour of actually learning for me, but also like reinforcing a lot of, the work we do every day here.
Yeah.
So, no, it was awesome to hear your side of it as well.
Yeah, no, thank you so much for having me. This was a blast.